Hey, how's it going, everyone? Today we're going to talk about part-time jobs, especially when you're at TRU. This is one of the questions I get asked the most by far, and I feel like a lot of people are concerned about this because you're coming to a new country, you don't really know what your expenses are going to be like, you don't really have a lot of money to spend in the first place, and I get it. I was coming from the same exact background, not really super rich, had to find ways to make money. So I'm going to give you some advice today on what it's like to get a job, how hard is it to get a job. But just know this going in. No one's going to hand you a job if you're just sitting at home. You have to go out there. You have to put some effort into it. With that being said, I want to make this as raw, as uncut as I possibly can. And I want to give you as much information in as little time as I possibly can. So, my first advice would be, and I see this a lot, unfortunately, in Kamloops, is when people arrive, they're very excited about getting a job. They want to get ahead of the curve. Great. Well done. The problem is they go on something I like to call job buying, which means they'll go into every single store and ask if they have a job. People don't want to hire you if you're willing to work anywhere, because that tells them you're not good at one specific thing. You're willing to take whatever comes your way. So if you're going to a clothing store and you said, hey, can you give me a job? They're not going to hire you that way. What they want is someone who's passionate about that industry, passionate about their store, their sales, and someone who's going to make a good team member, and preferably if you have experience in that field. If you go into 10 stores and you ask every one of them if they have a job, unfortunately it's not going to work in your favor, and I can't tell you how many people I know who do this. And a lot of international students, unfortunately, I also see this, they come in groups. Now imagine you're the owner of a store, you're working at a store, and there are 5 to 10 people who storm in with their resumes, and they're like, do you have a job? If you do, I'm just going to hand this to you. They're not really individualizing where they want to work, they're just distributing their resume, hoping one lands. Not a good strategy. I wouldn't recommend that at all. I would recommend looking into the company first. Yes, you can go into a shop and ask if they're hiring, but just don't go and say, hey, do you have a job? Once you know they're hiring, then you can go home, write up a good resume, submit it there, and be patient. Hopefully they'll call you. Now, on the subject of resumes, I can't tell you how many people I know who will submit a resume that just, it shouldn't see the light of day. I've seen half-page resumes with things like graduated from high school, a team worker, communication skills, hardworking, available during these times. Guess what? Literally everyone who is submitting their resume has the same exact thing written on their resume. If your resume is generic 101 with words that are available in just about everyone else's resume, you're not going to stand out. In fact, this has happened multiple times where someone gave me a resume at a place I was working at, and I handed it back to them. I said, you really want to consider working on this before you submit it, because I know that's going to go straight in the trash. So before you apply to a job and you think your resume is really good, trust me, overlook it a few times, go to the career department, show them your resume, make sure you work with them, you have a proper, well-built resume before you submit it to the job, because it's going to cost you a lot of time passing over a resume that's not really doing you justice, and the people are not going to call you anyway, and you're going to get more, what am I looking for? You're going to get more depressed when you do this with a bad resume. So the next thing I would probably advise you is, if you want to get a job fast, no, I just burped in the middle of my video. Okay, if you want to get a job fast, make sure there's going to be no competition or low competition when you're applying. When you're going to land in Canada, what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of people applying for jobs, because everyone's in the same boat as you. Everyone wants to get a job. Everyone wants to have some sort of an income. So what you want to do is make sure you have a whole list of jobs in mind already and apply to them as soon as you get to Canada. You don't want to wait for the first, second, third month while you're here, because most of those jobs are going to get taken within the first few months of the semester. The other thing is, you really want to be patient, because once you submit your resume, it takes time for them to get back to you. It also takes a lot of, let's say, thick skin, because sometimes you'll give in a resume and people will say, oh, this is exactly what we're looking for. You can work these hours? That's awesome. That's exactly what we're looking for. And then they just won't call you. That's unfortunately the reality of it. And you really have to muster through all of that. You have to be a little tough. You have to have that mentality that eventually someone will call you. So you just have to increase the amount of places you do apply to. Keeping in mind, apply to all these places in a very personalized fashion. Don't just shoot resumes like it's just cash you're blowing out. You want to make sure that every single place you're applying to feels like to them that you're passionate about that industry. And if you're not passionate about the kind of job you're applying to, just don't apply, because you're not going to like the job, you're not going to work as well as they want you to, and you're just not going to have a very good dynamic there. Last piece of advice I have for you if you're looking for a job is to know that in order to be competitive, in order to be someone who people want to hire, you do have to have some sort of skills. Now, a lot of you might be coming from a different country with no experience, and that's fine, but find things that you can make relatable to the job at hand. For example, if you're working at retail, you could probably list down some skills that you have from your things in high school, from your extracurriculars in high school that can apply to that job, but just have something to show that makes you a viable option. Just something that people look at, okay, I can see how this could be connected to the job requirements here. We're going to talk about more about resumes and how you can apply for a job later on in the series. I'll make sure I'll get some more qualified people on here. But a lot of you are really worried about how hard it is to get a job. It's not hard to get a job if you're looking, if you're consistent, and if you're patient. That's really all it takes. And I know a lot of you are betting on finding a job to pay your expenses. I would highly recommend, if your plan is to come to Canada, pay all of your tuition with your part-time job, pay all of your expenses with your part-time job. It's just not gonna happen. I'm sorry. You can pay your rent probably, you can pay your grocery bills probably, but if you're working a minimum wage job 20 hours a week, you're not going to get by paying all those expenses. I know a lot of people are very excited to get out of the country. They want to do anything possible, but just be a little realistic. You can't make that much money on a part-time job. I hope that answers some of your questions. I know there's a lot more concern that comes from people when they're looking for a job. They're coming to a new country. They don't know how hard it is. Listen, it's not that hard. Just put your resume out there. Make sure it's a nice, decent, crisp-looking resume, and hopefully you'll land a job. And if you can't, you know what? Ask the university, ask their career department. Be patient, ask around. Eventually you will find it. Thank you so much for watching. I will have plenty more videos coming up soon. I want to upload daily because I've been getting so many questions from you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.